Daniel Jeremiah, great contributor to this program and the NFL Network. He's a former scout for the Ravens, Browns, and Eagles. And you can see him tonight covering the draft, ESPN, NFL Network, and ABC. That starts tonight at 8 Eastern. What is the craziest draft rumor you have heard so far, Daniel?
Oh, well, I'd heard this about a week ago. It actually ended up being true because Glazer came out and reported it, but was that Atlanta was trying like crazy to get up to number 2 to get Chase Young, which would have been so far to travel. I just couldn't conceive like what you would have to give up to go all the way up there. You're talking about several first-round picks and would have been a heck of a move there. Obviously, I didn't think it would make any sense for the Redskins to go back to 16, but that one was I admired Dimitroff. Hey, why not? Swing for the fences. Can't say no if you don't ask.
Well, I keep asking, why isn't anybody trying to go after that? You know, and maybe that second pick overall is so valuable and it's going to cost you so much draft capital that it's not worth going up. But if I said to you, I can guarantee Chase Young is a Pro Bowl defensive lineman, edge rusher for 10 years. Or I will guarantee that one of the quarterbacks other than Joe Burrow will be a Pro Bowl quarterback 3 of those 10 years. Who are you taking?
Oof. That's a tough one, Dan. I would actually still take the defensive end.
Oh, I would too. I mean,
10 years of elite production at the second most important position on the field.
Yeah, but it feels like we're willing to roll the dice on Tua with every. If I had another player at another position who I said he's had surgery on his ankles, he's had hip surgery, and maybe he broke his hand. But hey, are you willing to invest a top 5 draft pick? You wouldn't do that with anybody but a quarterback. Why?
Well, I just think it speaks to what everybody views as the importance of that position and the lottery ticket it is if you can be the team to keep this kid healthy. So, I mean, that to me is all that it is. It just comes down to the position that you play. And when you look at the teams that are historically picking up here, for the most part, they don't have the guy at that position. So a lot of these teams are picking up here multiple years, over a period of time, and they're willing to take that risk just to try and get themselves out of this group.
And I wonder if the draft is now starting at number 3 with the Lions. Are the Lions going to be able to get somebody who wants to come up there? And if so, what are they looking to get at the number 3 pick overall? If you can't get Chase Young and can't get Joe Burrow, what are you planning on getting at 3 that makes it worthwhile?
Well, the good news for the Lions is they could use help in a lot of different areas, Dan. So you get Derek Brown and Jeffrey Okudah seems to be what the choice comes down to. So I've had them with Okudah, and I think their thinking is, man, they would love to trade back to 5 or 6 because they're going to get both those guys will probably still be there. They'll have their choice plus get a little sugar. So I would think they're highly motivated to get out. The question is, what are the Dolphins or the Chargers going to do about moving up? I've got the sense for a while that I did not think the Chargers were going to move up. They were content to sit and wait and see what hand they're dealt there. They were comfortable with a couple different options. So then it comes down to the Dolphins. And I'd argue, look, if you're the Dolphins and you love one of these quarterbacks, I shouldn't use love. I got to stop doing that with quarterbacks because it confuses everybody this year. If they have a passion about either Tua or Herbert, and you have as much draft capital as they've amassed for this year and next year, I don't know why you wouldn't just guarantee that you get him, even if you think there's a slim chance the Chargers could leapfrog it. Don't you just get to 3? It won't cost you that much just to make sure that you get the guy that you really, really like.
Give me the team that's under the most pressure tonight or the entire draft.
Ooh, that's a good one. I think that I would say the Dolphins. I mean, when you have 3 first-round picks, and this is a rumor that I don't get. Maybe you can explain this one to me. So the Dolphins trade an all-pro offensive tackle, and then they trade who's going to be an all-pro or who already is an all-pro free safety. So they trade these really talented position players so that they can get all these draft picks, so they can trade these draft picks to go up and get another offensive tackle they hope is going to be close to as good as the guy that they traded away. That makes absolutely no sense to me.
Well, it feels like these offensive tackles, there's going to be a run on offensive tackles. There's going to be a run on wide receivers. I don't think there'll be necessarily a run on quarterbacks because it'll be Burrow for sure, and then maybe it's either Tua or Herbert and Jordan Love a little bit later on. But it feels like there's going to be some pockets in this draft that are going to be a little slow, not too exciting there. And you're right. I don't understand the Dolphins' philosophy and what they want to do. But Tunsil was going to cost you an awful lot of money, and they didn't want to keep him. But as far as you want to trade up to get an offensive tackle instead of just – there's enough offensive tackles that could fall into your lap that you don't waste any of these other draft picks here. That's the only thing is there a big separation between these offensive tackles?
I think there's three that I really, really like. Andrew Thomas, some teams are a little bit higher on him than I am, but he's going to be a starting tackle. Now, I went to Appalachian State, Dan, so I'm not great at math. But if you have the fifth pick, and we know Joe Burrow's going number one, and we agree there are four really good offensive tackles in this draft, why are you trading up to get one?
And unless you say he's the next Anthony Munoz, then and we've seen, we were talking about this, Daniel. There have been a lot of offensive tackles taken who have been bust recently and taken high because I think it's hard to handicap how an offensive tackle in college is going to be able to play the position, which you're playing a different position really in the way NFL blocking and the way college is. It's hard to go, that guy is going to be great in the NFL. Now, we've had some guys really good. It's hard to find great offensive linemen, or at least that you go, I'm going to spend a high draft pick on these guys. You could have an Eric Fisher here. Or you could get, McGlinchey. Greg Robinson was really good. It feels like you can get a guard or a center and feel more confident than you can a tackle. Why is that?
Well, I think when you look at the way the college game's played with so many tunnel screens and bubble screens and spread you out, get the ball out, it kind of eliminates these guys having to really, really pass protect for an extended period of time, which is what you're asked to do at the NFL level. Now, two things I would say. Number one is the NFL is starting to incorporate more concepts like that to make that a little bit easier for these kids. And the other thing I would say is I think I think we're quick to give up on a lot of these guys. Like DJ Humphries is a great example. He's not a great player, Dan, but the Falcons just re-signed him and gave him a decent chunk of money because the DJ Humphries they saw in year 3 and year 4 was much better than the one they saw early on. I think there's a big adjustment period for most of these guys at tackle. Then when you're talking about interior guys, they get to play with neighbors. As a tackle, you only get one neighbor. You get two neighbors when you play inside.
Talking to Daniel Jeremiah, the NFL Network analyst here. If I told you could find out what one team is going to do tonight, which team would that be that you wanted to know?
Oh, it would be the Chargers. Because A, I work for them, and B, all my family and friends that grew up as fans of this team keep saying, "You work for the team. Who are they taking?" I'm like, I don't know. I talked to Telesco 3 times a week. He didn't tell me anything. I don't know who they're taking.
Who do you want them to take?
Well, to me, I just look at them and and I know we've talked about the risk with Tua, but going into this kind of new era, new building, I just think his personality, putting him in with this group, it would be a big shot in the arm to everybody. And then they've got to go about trying to get the offensive line fixed to protect him. But I think Tua with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Hunter Henry and Austin Eckler, he's a point guard. He's a distributor, and they have a nice collection of guys he could distribute the ball to.
I have doubts on Tua, not just the medical doubts. I mean, that alone, I wouldn't take him. But I understand if the Dolphins do it and they want to splash, if the Chargers do and they want to splash. Like, I get it. I really like the kid. But Chris Sims was killing Tua last night. I mean, he said, look, I like the kid. I'm just telling you, he's not a top 10 talent. We've been force-fed Tua. If Justin Herbert played at Alabama, would we look at Justin Herbert differently? What if Tua was at Utah State and Jordan Love was at Alabama? Like, we look at you in the system with the coach, with the results, you're playing in big games, national title games, like all of those things. But are we overinflating somebody without really knowing that we're doing that?
Well, I mean, I could take everything that you just said, and I could go back to the year Deshaun Watson came out, and I could put it in the exact same spot. Everybody said the same thing about him. He's playing. Look at all these NFL wide receivers he's playing with. He's in all these primetime games on big stages. There's a lot of guys. You can't penalize them for who they played with. I can just tell you the difference to me between Herbert and Tua is I think that Tua plays with much more urgency. He's much more decisive. He's much more aggressive. Now, and that's not something that changes whether you put on a different helmet or not. So that to me would be the difference between those two guys. Now, Justin Herbert's bigger, stronger, more athletic. I get all of that. He did not play with nearly the talent that Tua did. I told somebody the other day, I think Tua played with the best receiving core we've seen in college football since the Hurricanes in the early 2000s when they had Andre Johnson and Reggie Wayne and all those guys. I mean, it was unbelievable. But that doesn't change the fact that when I watch him, I see somebody that's very twitched up, very urgent, and plays aggressive, which are things I like.
Yeah, but he plays too aggressive, and he needs to understand to take a loss, throw it away. Robert Griffin got into trouble in the pros. You try to take on these guys, extend a play, and that Nick Saban was on yesterday, and he talked about Tua's always trying to make the play, make the big play. That you can't do that in the pros because he's not fast.
I agree with that.
He's not fast.
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that. And somebody, I was actually talking to Pollock about this last night on the phone, and we were talking about his inability to protect himself. And I said, you know what? He's not nearly the athlete that Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson are, but he needs to watch a lot of their tape just to see how they protect themselves.
That's great.
And giving up 3 or 5 yards is not a big deal in the grand scheme of things here, man. Get down, protect yourself. There's ways even when you throw the football and you're getting heat to be able to fall away from the hit. I mean, people used to make fun of Eli Manning, but last I checked, Eli Manning played a lot of games without missing any for the way he threw the ball when he got under pressure.
It's like when people talk about pitching and throwing, I said, if you want to learn to pitch, watch Greg Maddux. You want to learn to throw, there's a lot of guys who can throw. You want to learn to play the quarterbacking position, I'd have him watch Russell Wilson because I think he's more like Russell Wilson than he is Drew Brees. I mean, Russ extends a play. Drew Brees is a pocket quarterback. He doesn't get out of the pocket. He doesn't extend. If you're watching Tua, he's extending. He runs. He needs to watch Russell Wilson and understand how to protect yourself because that would be the guy. I'd say, watch him, and you're similar size, and you can see the success that he's had.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That's kind of the way I feel. It's just you've got to figure out a way to keep yourself on the field. I think when he stays on the field, I think he's pretty darn good. But that doesn't matter if you can't get out there. So That's the concern. I mean, you're holding your breath when you take him, and you're hoping that you get that kid on the field. But there's risk, no doubt about it. I don't disagree with that.
Daniel, goes back to the fear of taking him and the fear of not taking him. And when's the last time that we had a draft pick where we said that at that position, the fear of taking him and the fear of not taking him? What's greater?
Well, I mean, that's. I would say Johnny Manziel was that question, right? Now this is a totally different kid, and the makeup's totally different. But it was the way Manziel played stylistically was something we hadn't really seen, and it was a question of whether or not that would, that would translate. But I think that one was. There's teams that were like, man, I don't know, I don't think I can take him, but man, I hope he doesn't go in our division because they thought he had a chance to be really good.
Yeah.
But it's similar but yet different.
Yeah, I thought Johnny would be, if Jacksonville took him, that he would be a boost for that franchise, that it gave them personality. I didn't realize what his personality truly was, and that he just wasn't committed to playing the sport. But Tua, I do love. I get nervous about that. He's not a big kid. I mean, Herbert, if you said, he's got injuries, well, he's still a 6'6" kid. And he runs well. He's a better athlete than Tua is. He might not be a better quarterback. Jordan Love might be a better athlete. But there's a mystery with him. We love the mysteries, though, when you think about it, Daniel. It's like Jordan Love is intriguing because we don't know much about him.
No doubt. And to me, it's almost, we're trying to judge whether or not we have a good marriage without knowing who the partner is. So, when we find out who these
it's an arranged marriage here, Daniel. Yeah. That's what we're doing. True. Yeah, an arranged marriage.
But I mean, it's like it goes back to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Like, you can't find a better marriage than that for him. If Jordan Love ended up with, Sean Payton or, one of these top offensive minds that had a chance to sit and learn and develop. What if he's with Frank Reich? with the Colts and can sit behind Rivers for a year or 2 years. Like, that's unbelievable. He's got a great shot to be successful. You know, he goes to the Miami Dolphins and they start him next year behind that offensive line. It's not going to go well.
Why did most people miss on Mahomes?
Well, I can just talk about my missing on him was because when you watched him, you saw unbelievable talent, but you saw him in an offense which was a bunch of screens and scrambles. That's basically what they were doing at Texas Tech. And then it was so freewheeling and so different from anything he was going to be asked to do at the next level. That was difficult. And then the other thing I would say is I got a chance to visit with him the week of the draft for the first time. He came into our studio at NFL Network, and I asked him about specific plays, like TCU, Patrick, third down, you're down in the red zone, fourth quarter, kind of like what you've heard Sean McVay do when people ask him about specific plays. And he would tell me the play call, the read, what happened on the play, what that led them to do later on in the game. Like, his recall and his intelligence was off the charts. And I think the teams that got a chance to visit with him said, okay, this kid's got all this natural talent. Mm-hmm. I know we need to work on the footwork. I know there's a lot of things that need to happen going forward, but this kid is incredibly bright and he loves football. So when you put that kind of stew together, that was the magic.
But if you could have, you could work him out, physically work somebody out, or you could just interview him. Like, what would be more valuable? You could only pick one, but you could actually work him out, or you could do what you just did by saying, hey, give me the TCU play, the call, everything you saw in the play. Like, what's going to tell you more?
I can watch the tape and figure out the other stuff. To me, it's more valuable to sit down and visit with the kid.
Yeah.
I think that was what made that kid so unbelievable. Is we talk about his arm, we talk about his athleticism. That dude is smart, man.
I said this to the Danettes. There'd be Mondays where I'd come in, or there'd be Sundays or Saturdays where I'd be texting them, and I'd just say, turn on Texas. I'd give them the channel, and they knew that I was watching Texas. Because I said, I don't know if he can play in the NFL, but damn, is he fun. And it looked like he was drawing up plays in the dirt and just saying, you go over here and you go over here. Hey, give me about 3 seconds. I'll be able to make something happen here. I didn't know it would translate anywhere near what it is. Deshaun Watson, I thought, was his star. I was shocked that he was falling. Mahomes, I just saw maybe the embryonic stages of somebody who was trying to be Brett Favre. And he may turn out to be better.
Yeah, he is unbelievable. If you could get a mulligan on one draft grade, I would submit my card for that one.
Have fun tonight, and I'll try not to text you too much, okay?
Oh, Dan, if we have breaks in the Wi-Fi or something goes hairy, I need some text messages. I need some encouragement here.
All right. I'll be your audience. I'll try to puff you up a little bit there. Have fun, though. It's always great to talk to you, Daniel.
I appreciate you, Dan. Thanks.
That's Daniel Jeremiah. He'll be working the draft for the NFL Network.